And today, I want to talk about mayors, and to one specific mayor, Chattanooga's Tim Kelly.
There's a degree of an emotional sort of intelligence that comes with being a good mayor or a good CEO for that matter, and you have to learn to put your ego aside and listen more than you talk, or at least as much as you talk.
Recently, I had a conversation with Tim Kelly. He had some interesting things to say about his job.
You are running an organization. The city of Chattanooga has 2,600 employees, and culture matters and leadership matters, and knowing, building a team and putting the right people in the right positions to be successful. It's hugely important because this is how we build the operational capacity to create public value to make Chattanooga a better city.
This is Tomorrowtown, Tennessee. This is the podcast where we tell the stories of those who call the Tennessee Valley home, the issues they face, and we'll have conversations with elected officials and community leaders on ideas to find solutions and move this region forward. I'm Josh Roe. I'll be your host for this journey. Chattanooga Mayor Tim Kelly was elected in April 2021. Tonight, the voters in Chattanooga have chosen the next mayor. Thank you for watching. I'm Josh Roe. Businessman Tim Kelly defeated Kim White tonight in the runoff election. Kelly won the general election by less than. As a journalist, I've had the chance to interview all sorts of people, including many lawmakers and elected officials. And honestly, as I'm sure you can guess, some are more forthcoming than others. Some are more accessible than others. Some are big personalities. Some are more reserved. I find during my conversations with Tim Kelly, he is candid.
It would be pretty easy to come in this job and not do anything. I mean, you see it in other mayor's offices around the country because there's no, in private business, you would be out of business, right? Because you would run out of customers. You could coast in this office, and I think, frankly, I think it has been done in the past here and in other cities.
And I always learn something.
Right now we have a beer and record board. I mean, what are those things in common, right? Not anything other than the fact that years ago the same person at the police department supervised both areas.
So I hope you find this conversation valuable as well. Today we discuss Tim Kelly's first 2 years in office.
Some days it feels like every bit of 2 years, and some days it feels like yesterday. We've been so busy with so much. I mean, we came in with a very aggressive and comprehensive policy platform, and we've just been hard at work on standing up the tent poles and building the team to get all this hard work done.
On some level, if you're the mayor of a mid-sized southern city, you get to choose what to do with some parts of your day, some control over that. What do you decide is the most important thing? How many public events are you going to go to? Meetings with staff and local groups and residents, other local leaders, people in other city departments, from the police, the city works. How many interviews with reporters are you going to do? Because let's be honest, we're always asking for interviews.
I think a lot of people realize or think of their one sort of vertical and what goes on at the city, whether that's economic development or fire or police or public safety or homelessness. And every one of those crosses my desk, at some point during the course of a day or a week. And so it's busy, but I like being busy. And it's challenging, but it's been exactly what I expected.
So with all the important issues crossing a mayor's desk, how does one know if they're doing a good job? Well, ultimately, a mayor will get a performance review the next election cycle. But before that happens, how do you measure success?
Well, coming into office, we published that One Chattanooga plan, which pretty well lays out, 11 values and 7 real big goals, everything from early learning to affordable housing, to increasing the vitality, the economic vitality of the community broadly, but specifically the Black community. And that's how we measure it, is progress against those goals.
That One Chattanooga plan Mayor Kelly's talking about is basically his strategic plan, his priorities for his administration. We're going to do a separate episode focusing on just that very soon, but let's hit some of the key points.
I think everybody's familiar with the fact that obviously we want to see crime numbers go down. We want to see affordable housing be more plentiful. We want to see our point in time count go down with our homeless numbers. Those are the three big ones that we're really focused on broadly. Over and above that, though, we also look at jobs, right, and job creation and economic growth. And I spent a tremendous amount of my time on that. And of course, that is a very long game that it's a bit like farming. You have to plant a lot of seeds in order to grow what you want to grow. And it takes a while.
Many people, when they go to the polls, they may vote strictly down party lines or are well researched about some races, but not others. How much time do we spend thinking about what each job does? Do you think about the qualities it takes to have an executive role in government, being a mayor or governor, even president, compared to the different responsibilities of holding an office in a legislative body like Congress or state legislature? Tim Kelly was elected mayor the first time he ran for anything. His experience included co-founding a soccer team, serving in lots of board positions around Chattanooga, but mostly he ran and managed businesses.
It's actually a lot more like business than I suspected. I mean, I was prepared to come in, and I certainly was not trying to force it into my model of things. But the thing about it is, I don't think enough people realize the really profound difference between legislative politics, in which you're essentially arguing over bills and policy, but don't have any actual responsibility to execute anything that you say or do, which would include our senators, congressmen, et cetera. Not nothing against that, because I'm not woven from that cloth. That would bore me to tears and frustrate me. But executive politics is vastly different. It's just completely different. And that is mayors, governors, presidents, because you are running an organization. The city of Chattanooga has 2,600 employees, and culture matters and leadership matters, and knowing, building a team and putting the right people in the right positions to be successful. It's hugely important because this is how we build the operational capacity to create public value to make Chattanooga a better city. You cannot phone it in. And you really can't learn it from a book experience. I mean, again, when the next election rolls around, you'll probably hear me talking a lot about it. I am shocked, very frankly, that we don't talk about it more during campaigns, because particularly in Chattanooga, as with the strong mayor model that we have, it is hugely important. These departments that city residents rely on to do things like put out fires and pick up garbage and help. Management matters. And if they're going to run well and perform at capacity, they have to be managed, and you have to build a culture that is, very mission focused. And I think that's what we're in the process of doing here.
Mayor in Chattanooga is a nonpartisan position, meaning you don't have to declare a political affiliation to run. It's the same way in Nashville and Knoxville, but in comparison, in Hamilton County, the county where Chattanooga is located, there is a county mayor. And if you run for that position, that is a partisan race. But with the current state of political ideologies in this country and in this region of the country, some of these things, some of the aspects of the job of mayor in that context could get confusing.
People don't sit around and think on a daily basis. I didn't, frankly, before I came into this office, about how different the roles are, but they are completely and utterly different. I mean, somebody who is really given to that legislative mindset, it's a different way of looking at the world, and it's a very different skill set. I have to do a lot of that politician-like stuff in order to, stay in office, and right. Part of it just comes with the territory. But a ton of it is stuff that people don't see, and that has to do with all of the internal management and all the internal decision making, which is really what the root of the word executive is about. That constitutes running a city and making sure the garbage gets picked up on time and making sure our crime rate's going down and making sure that potholes get paid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
About a year ago, he spoke in New York at an event with the U.S. State Department. There, he quoted the mayor of Miami saying, "There are three political parties, Republicans, Democrats, and mayors. The truth is, many times the media coverage Mayor Kelly gets doesn't always reflect that theory."
Those bodies' jobs are to generally allocate money, right, and to create laws. And we work within the framework that is given to us either by the state or the federal government. But the execution of those things, how we spend that money, and how well or poorly we spend that money, and how we work within the laws always, but it's that constitutes, I think, whether a mayor is doing a good job or a bad job. And I will say the difference in private business is that it would be pretty easy to come in this job and not do anything. I mean, you see it in other mayor's offices around the country, because there's no, in private business, you would be out of business, right? Because you would run out of customers. You could coast in this office, and I think, frankly, I think it has been done in the past here and in other cities. I mean, it's easy to do. I mean, but of course, you run the risk of not getting reelected, depending on how well or poorly that goes. But yeah, it would be easy to come in this office and not work hard. But again, I ran because I love the city, and I'm determined to make it better. And the good news is I've got incredible raw material to work with to make it better, and incredible momentum based on the work of all the people that came before me.
If you live in Chattanooga, someone has likely sent you a link to a story from MarketWatch.com recently. I've had a few people mention the story to me in the last few days. The first three words in the headline: the next Austin. The next Austin? The next Austin? That's me trying to make it sound like a question mark at the end there. The next Austin? I don't know. Podcasting is hard. Anyway, I did this interview with Mayor Kelly a few weeks ago. We talked about growth in this city, and he did compare it to Austin, Texas, at least in one way.
I had people tell me all the time, this reminds me of Austin 30 years ago. Well, the trick is to keep it reminding you of Austin 30 years ago, and not become swamped by the growth. I will say, it's a good thing to have growth. You've got areas in the Rust Belt up in Pennsylvania that would kill for the sort of growth that we have. And it's notable that we are still not growing as fast as any of our regional peers. Not as fast as Huntsville, not as fast as Nashville, not as fast as even Knoxville.
One thing that's clear from the story, Chattanooga has a lot of nicknames. The Gig City, the Freight Alley, the Battery Belt. That's a new one. But the core of the story, it's all about growth and managing that growth. We talked about that.
We have to plan for that in terms of roads, transportation, sewer, all of those things. And we are doing that. We also have to make sure that, people who have historically lived here can continue to afford to live here. And that's where a much more focused, and it's a dramatically different approach that we're taking to affordable housing is super important. The good news is ultimately we've got a lot of new supply coming online, and we'll have the economic growth in terms of new jobs to meet it. I feel confident of that. But at the same time, my job is to steer between the ditches and make sure that, we don't all end up hating living here for all the congestion and all the growth, because really, at the end of the day, quality of life is our greatest asset.
Coming soon on Tomorrow Town, Tennessee, we examine Mayor Kelly's One Chattanooga plan.
These are difficult topics. They're topics, I think, that a lot of politicians with future political ambition tend to sweep under the rug because they're uncomfortable topics. But I think they're so important that they need to be addressed head on. And frankly, again, we've been sweeping them under the rug here for too long in Chattanooga. And ultimately, we have to address them in order to move forward as a community.
Kelly says this plan is how he measures how he's doing at the job. A deep dive into the One Chattanooga plan coming soon. Tomorrow Town, Tennessee is a production of NewsChannel 9, Fox Chattanooga, and Sinclair Broadcast Group Chattanooga. Please follow the show to make sure you don't miss an episode. And thanks for listening. I'm going to go get a snack now. No makers of snacks sponsor this podcast, at least none that I know about. But they don't always tell me these things. If makers of snacks sponsor this podcast, they didn't give me any. Yet.